We are doing ingredient challenge number 3. We got coconut, saltwater taffy, and rice. It was another really kind of weird combination, something we can mess with. 2 of them were on the right track. I thought for sure I was going to get to do something with the main course, but one curveball turned it into a dessert again. We're going to do a vanilla cake with rice pudding layered in between slices of the cake, saltwater taffy, which is a key lime flavor that we're going to mix right into the cake batter and let that bake and give it some color. Do a buttercream frosting to finish it off. We're just going to get started. We have a lot of things to do with this one. We got to make cake, we got to make frosting, and we got to make rice pudding. It's going to be a phenomenal dessert and everybody's going to love it. So let's get to it. We're going to get started with doing the cake portion of this. It is just a basic vanilla cake. In here we have unbleached flour, we have baking powder, and then salt. We're just going to lightly mix that together with our whisk. Make sure it's all kind of combined. Just whisk it around, get it nice and aerated, a little bit of air down in there, and just make sure all of that stuff is kind of mixed through. You can sift it if you want to. That is actually probably the most recommended way of making sure that all your stuff is spread out evenly. When you do the cake, you add the dry ingredients last. We're going to get the eggs, sugar, and vanilla whipped into the KitchenAid right now. We got 4 eggs going in, a bunch of sugar, 2 cups, tablespoon of vanilla going in. Down, lock it up, whip it. Probably a little loud, hopefully you hear me okay. Just shut this down real quick to kind of give you a heads up of what's going on. Just want to make sure everybody can hear me. We're going to whip this until it gets about triple the volume that it originally was. Once that raises up, hits triple the volume, then we're going to start slowly drizzling the canola oil in. Everything's nice and incorporated now. I'm going to drop this down to low. I'm going to put it on stir, so that way it's not going to pop back out at you. What you need to do is alternate now, adding flour and milk. So you're going to go a little bit of flour, a little bit of milk, a little bit of flour, a little bit of milk until everything's combined and the batter is going to be really smooth. Scrape down the sides as needed, make sure everything's getting down in there. Reaching the end, we're going to put the last bit of our dry ingredients in and a little bit of milk. Just kind of let this finish up. It's already pretty smooth, so we don't have a whole lot left to do after this gets in there. Make sure all your stuff's off the edges. It's really smooth now, so basically turn it off, unlock it, sit it up. It's going to go into a greased pan. We're going to pour some batter into the pan, layer that with a little bit of the saltwater taffy, a little more batter, a little more saltwater taffy, finish it off with the batter. Chuck the saltwater taffy in, just kind of sporadically all over the place. Doesn't have to be pretty. It's just going to drop color and flavor all throughout this cake as you go. Don't make it look too uniform or anything. One thing you can do as well, take a towel and set it on your counter. You let the cake on there and then you just kind of shake it a little bit. And that's going to let all of those air bubbles rise up out of it, so that way you don't have giant air pockets in the middle of the cake. It's going to be a little more dense that way. You can see all the air bubbles rising to the top when you shake it out. Using the spatula now to pop all the air bubbles on the top, and that will give us a much nicer, even, dense cake. The cake's in the pan. Pan's going in the oven. It's going to go in there at 350 for about 50 to 55 minutes. I do think the key lime from the saltwater taffy and the vanilla from the freshly made cake is going to just go really, really well together. And when we dust that with the coconut on the buttercream frosting, it's just going to be phenomenal. We're on step 2, a buttercream frosting for the cake. We're going to dust the entire outside of the cake with organic, unsweetened coconut. I'm going to start by creaming the sugar. Push down the butter, make sure it's all getting whipped up. We just kind of want to get it to a nice fluffy kind of consistency, a little bit of air in there, and then once that happens, we'll start adding in the sugar. We just got to a nice fluffy consistency with the butter. We're going to start adding in the sugar. You're going to slow down your speed a little bit so you don't end up with a big face full of confectioner sugar. Heading towards the culmination of the buttercream frosting. I just have a touch more sugar I'm going to dump in there now. What's going to happen is everything's kind of binding up and getting a little bit of a thicker consistency to it from the sugar and the butter coming together. I'm going to shut it down real quick, give the sides a scrape one more time, get everything towards the bottom of the bowl, turn it back on, about medium speed, and then I have a mixture of milk and vanilla, which is going to give the flavor to it and a little bit of that loosening up of the frosting as well. Just going to drizzle that in a little bit. You're just going to turn it on high and let it go for 3 to 4 minutes. Get as much air in there as we can and just get it really fluffy. I'm going to scrape this down, give a little taste, check our texture, see how we are. Nice and fluffy, that's for sure. That's money. It's going to be perfect. And when we dust that coconut over the outside, it's going to offset the really sweetness that comes off of this. And then when it goes onto the cake, it's just going to all come together really well. We're on to the filling part of our cake. Rice pudding, pretty basic. It was actually something my grandmother used to make all the time. She loved making rice pudding, and seriously, it was the best I ever had. So hopefully I can come a little bit close to that. It's been a really long time since I got to see her make it. It's a total of 2 cups of milk. It's going to end up being in this, but we only need 1.5 cups for right now. You have cold rice that you can use rice that's already been in your fridge. You can make it and leave it on the stove. It can just be sitting around. That's actually how rice pudding came about. Just pour 1.5 cups of milk into the rice, just give that a little stir, and this is going to cook, and the starch from the rice is going to come out and you actually become the thickener in this. Just going to sit over medium heat for about 15 to 20 minutes. Most of the milk from the first 1.5 cups that we added to this is absorbed, so it's a little bit on the thick and creamy side now. I'm going to add in the remaining part of the milk, sugar, which is 1/3 cup, and 1 beaten egg. When you're adding the egg, you want to go a little bit slow and stir it because you don't want to have scrambled eggs in your rice pudding. Milk goes in, 1/3 cup of sugar, give that a quick stir, your egg. Now that everything is in the pot, we're going to keep stirring it for about 2 to 3 minutes, and we're going to let the egg kind of set up in there and not actually cook in one spot. Then we're going to remove it off the heat and it'll be good to go. It's nice, rich, creamy right now. It's been cooking for about 2 to 3 minutes. We're ready to pull it off the heat and turn the burner off. I'm just going to add our butter and vanilla right into it. Nice richness of the butter and a great flavor from the vanilla. Once you add that vanilla in there, the aroma that comes off is really, really nice. Now we're going to let that cool, and that's going to be the filling in between our layers of cake. We just got the key lime saltwater taffy vanilla cake out of the oven, and it really, really looks cool. There's so much color from the saltwater taffy melding throughout the cake. Look at that thing. It's like little green lava mountains coming out of there. It's awesome. Look at how cool the color is with all of that saltwater taffy melding throughout it. So you get these really cool swirls. Just gonna dye your cake, but also give flavor pockets. Sometimes you're gonna bite into it and you're gonna get a nice bit of vanilla, and then you're going to get to that part where the key lime's there and you're going to get that burst of lime and maybe even a little bit of chew from the melted candy in there. It's exactly what I was trying to go for, so that way when we slice this open, you're just going to see some really cool layers and a lot of color on the inside. Oh, yes. This whole top piece we're going to cut off. That's going to level the cake out. And then we're just going to go slice, slice, slice. We'll have 3 pieces, maybe 2. We'll just kind of see how it works out. And then do rice cake, rice pudding, cake, rice pudding, cake. Then buttercream frosting, toasted coconut over the outside. This thing's going to be banging. The cake is all baked out. What we're going to do is take our knife. We're going to slice the top off. Then we're going to cut 2 more slits through, make a 3-layer cake. We're going to do the rice pudding in between each layer, and then we're going to do the buttercream frosting on the outside, and then coat that all with the organic unsweetened coconut. Nice and easy. Try to keep your knife as level as you can, and just cut into it. So look at that. That's pretty cool, right? All the color kind of spreading throughout it. Makes it look really neat. When you cut down through and your hand and slices out the people, it's going to look awesome. That's 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to get to the part of constructing the cake. When you do this, you want to kind of do it in reverse. This is going to be your bottom piece, even though it's the top. The reason we're going to do that is we're going to put rice pudding on, next layer, rice pudding on. Then the bottom is actually going to turn over and become the top, and that's going to give you a smooth layer to put the frosting on. You don't want to have to rub frosting on the sliced part of the cake. It makes your life a little bit harder without causing any crumbs to pop up off of your cake. Rice pudding time. First layer. Just the last scoop of rice pudding. We're just gonna put that in there, finish it off, smooth it out. We're gonna put that top bottom on upside down so we have that nice smooth surface to work with. Icing time. The cake's all iced up. Finish it off by dusting it with the coconut shavings. Just to finish it off, we're gonna put some of the saltwater taffy on top. I really like to garnish my food with something that's inside of it. That way people know like kind of what's going on in there. Now we're getting ready to cut it and eat it. Ta-da. We gotta give this thing a taste test and see how it all came out. Sarah! Come try the coconut cake!
A Sarah bite.
No. You actually went into it. It's amazing.
Not something I would normally eat, as you know. I wouldn't eat saltwater taffy. I wouldn't eat rice pudding, and I don't really care for vanilla cake. But all of the flavors together actually is pretty good.
Sarah is not a cake person. She definitely hates icing. I really didn't know how it was going to come out, honestly, because, I mean, putting rice pudding with key lime and vanilla cake, but everything really comes together well. The cake is a little bit of a denser style. The moisture from the rice pudding, you get that little hint of the key lime and a little bit of that chew from the saltwater taffy. It came out really good. I'm really shocked. Have a great time trying this. Hopefully you do. If you do, please let us know and let us know what you think of it.
Good job.
Thanks.